Ladies and gentlemen, we're on at the next meeting. What we're gathering is the monthly plan commission. I'm Tim Janacek, the chair of the plan commission. I call this meeting to order. This roll call. Stephanie, would you take a roll call, please?
Tim Janacek.
Here.
Sharon Christensen. Here. Marlene Peck.
Here.
Dave Hageman.
Here.
Jessica Barmack. Here. Chuck Sewell.
Here.
Gene White.
Thank you. On the agenda is approval of the plan commission minutes from our November 15, 2022 meeting. They provided for us in advance. Can I hear a motion for approval or disapproval? I'll make a motion to approve. For a second. No discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 4 on our agenda is the appointment of Jessica Barmack as the newest member of the Plan Commission. And I'm going to turn the table over to our Deputy Clerk, Stephanie Goff, for the appointment.
We as a board welcome you to the town of Oregon, welcome you to the Plan Commission, and Stephanie will swear you in.
And then I will say it and I, Jessica, I can say I, and then you can say Jessica.
I, Jessica.
Appointed to the town of Oregon Plan Commission, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
I, Jessica Barmack, having been appointed to the Town of Oregon Plan Commission, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will, you're doing this, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. Thank you. You're welcome.
Item number 5 on our agenda is a single item of public comment featuring Jerry Jensen. Is Jerry present tonight?
He is.
He is. Yeah. What is the public comment you wish to present to us?
Okay, I have a petition before the county and I'd like to give the town a heads up on it. Back in a little background, back in 2010, I created 3 lots. The existing homestead into a 7.7 acre lot. I had some questions on the first map that was drawn for the county. And this morning, we met with Roger Lane and Burncott Surveying and came up with the map that I'm gonna submit to the county this time. It moves a lot that was created back in 2010 from the Town Park Road.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Brenda.
Okay. It's on it.
Yeah, looking at the same paper.
Oh, yeah, I've made lots. Go ahead.
Okay, it's. Well, why don't you finish passing them out so everybody can look at them? Hey, if you notice going off the Town Park Road, there's a flag lot. It's lot 4 CSM 13122. That was created back in 2010. And it makes more sense to move that lot to just east and join up with Windridge Road. There's another postage stamp lot that was created back in 2010 that we are reconfiguring. Used to go, it was drawn up originally as going from west to east. But now we're going to reconfigure that so it goes from north to south. This will allow a road to go from the south, from a cul-de-sac, as it says on there, a cul-de-sac to the south and then around and join up with Town Park Road. Eventually. It also allows an extension to the east to join up with the other road that will eventually join up with Town Park Road. Down the road. Right now, our concern is to get the 2 lots that were created in 2010 in a situation where the county can approve it and the town can approve it. Any questions?
They're both up in that northwest corner.
So, right,
You're taking off lot 4. Basically putting lot 4 as proposed lot 1,
mhm,
and then you're just switching direction of lot 2 that's already present.
correct,
Okay, and then lot 3 stays where it's at.
yes, for the, yeah,
And then lot 1 on that proposed lot 3 is already have a house on it. Right?
yes, lot 1 CSM down in the south east corner.
Okay, and then.
Yeah, that's the old farmstead.
Okay, and then how many housing options you have left after that? Is that it at this time?
At this time,
Mhm.
yes. That's correct. There's proposed lot 1, proposed lot 2, and then there's lot 3 CSM 13122 in the up by the town park.
And then the rest of the acreage would be FP 35.
Correct. So my purpose tonight then is just to get everybody on the same page that you'll know this is going to the county. And then you'll get the staff report and so forth, with public hearings and everything's the same on down the line.
Thank you, Mr. Jensen. This matter put on the agenda for public comment only by Mr. Jensen. No action is going to be taken. Sounds like he's on his way to following the process that will eventually bring the matter back to it. That won't happen tonight.
Yes.
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, sir. That concludes public comment. Item number 6 on our agenda is communications. And Stephanie, would you tell us about the need for rescheduling the April Plan Commission meeting?
Absolutely. We have the annual meeting. It has to be the 3rd Tuesday of the month. And that's normally our regularly scheduled meeting. So we are pushing it to the week after April 15th or April 25th. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Is that something that you can do administratively, or does it require some action by the commission?
I don't think it requires action, does it, Jennifer? Switch.
Make a motion. Planning commission.
Mike didn't.
Yeah,
didn't
that's
put it
fine.
as- I put
As
it
long
as
as you pick a
communication.
date.
Yeah, we did.
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
And it'll be the complaint. The new date for our plan commission meeting will be April 25th, which is the following Tuesday from our
Yep,
usual.
The following Tuesday.
So I assume it'll be at the same time and there'll be an agenda.
Yes.
And public notice. Good, thank you for clarifying that.
Thanks.
That concludes the agenda for the plan commission. Item number 7 is for adjournment of this portion of the meeting. May I have a motion for that? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Anyone dare to disagree? All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll call the Plan Commission and Town Board joint meeting to order. At 6:40 PM. We've already got roll calls in, so we don't need that. We'll start with item 2, discussing possible action, board recommendation regarding future development. So I'm going to. The right way to do this, but I think I'm gonna start with the board members, give them their chance to speak and thoughts on it. And then we'll listen to the plan commission members and then we'll have discussion. So Carl, you're online. Do you want to speak first?
Sure. Part of it is, I do think, I know that TDR is waiting to be approved. And I don't think there's anything wrong with TDR, but I don't think it addresses everything we need. What I'm feeling though is that today, I don't think we're sitting in a place where we can say, here's where we think all the future development should be, if there is any. And I think it goes back to the vision plan from 20+ years ago and the need to redo that. The catch with that though is it's going to take a while to do that. It could take 18 months, it could, or a year or something. It's not a 4-week process to have it ready by the next set of meetings. I do think it's important. I think it's hugely important. In the meantime, what I'd like us to do is not take anything off the table. I mean, I would take things off the table, like no, not a Costco, right? And not paving over the entire town. But I think it's unreasonable that we expect that there's no that the TDR development would satisfy, say, the financial needs of the tax base. So that is sort of a non-answer, I guess. But overall, my answer is that I'd like to make sure that we consider everything and not just make assumptions that certain types of new homes wouldn't work, or really light retail or commercial wouldn't work, because it may. That's it for me.
I think that there's several things to consider. The number one thing is we're talking about maintaining the rural character, and I think we need to have somebody tell us what that really means. Because if you look at all the other comprehensive land use plans, they all say that. So I think it'd be good to have people say what it really means. And, Jennifer copied this survey. I don't know, what was it, 5-6 years ago? And I remember when I answered it, that I thought it was really confusing. And I think it's still a little bit confusing to really figure out what people wanted. So we're assuming that nobody wants development, but I don't think we really know that. So I think it would be really good to maybe come up with a different survey that's a little easier to explain to people what problems that we have with the levy limit, the possibility of annexation. And then we have these areas that are the extraterritorial jurisdiction. And as the village accumulates some of those, then those lines are going to go even further. I think people like the way it is right now with their larger lots. All of a sudden, as it moves and the village has it, they can put houses right on top of each other. So this might be a time to figure out a long range plan done some of that in some of those areas as the village wants to move in. Arlen, you're looking at me like you don't know what I'm saying.
I'm listening.
Okay, I just mean that we have areas, if you look at the map, and this is spots that we can't develop because the village has the right, if they want to someday, to develop that. And then once they do that, that line will move again. So I think this is a concern. Because they're not gonna care about having large lots for the continuing with the country type of atmosphere. So I think that's the other thing to be considered. And TDR, I agree with Carl. I mean, I have nothing against TDR, but I don't think it's the answer to our problems with our levy. But I want to go back, that if we had a survey, I think people need to say, do you want development? And if you say no, that's just not. Or how do you feel like the compromise on that, to really find out, because I think people aren't aware of where that's at. But then as far as TDR, I think there's a lot of people that don't 100% understand it. And that word in perpetuity is a huge thing, you know, and I read about it, that Fred said, oh my God, I would never want to sign it. It said forever. So I was here part of this whole process of the tour. And I agree that the whole process wasn't handled in the right way from beginning to end. And for many, many ways it got railroaded. So I think if we're going to go to TDR, we need to make sure people understand it, that maybe we contact some of the people that have that possibility to explain it to them. Because there's another person that thought, oh my, this is a great idea, but he thought we were saying PDR, which is a totally different thing. So I would like to be sure people that would be affected by it 100% understand it and maybe have a real thorough public hearing and explain it to people. That's it.
Thank you, Fred.
Well, I keep hearing this word rural, and my family's been in the town of Oregon for over 150 years. And it was a farming community at that time, a big time farming community. And then 1992 showed up and they took all the development rights from us farmers, which was our retirement. And give us one lot per 35. So we got hundreds of thousands of dollars invested in land that we thought someday we might be able to build some houses on. And that got taken away from us. So the rural part of Oregon is not so rural, because I look at, take County D, for example. It was loaded with dairy farms, and there's one. There's probably not even a half a dozen dairy farms left in the town of Oregon. So the rural part of this town is gone in my eyes. So in TDR, it is an option, but who are you going to designate who's going to be able to sell and where are you going to transfer those lots to, and what is going to happen to that? So I have a question on that. And I don't want to just limit us like with small businesses. I've built a couple small businesses in the township, we've had clinics, and I think it was a great thing to have in the town of Oregon. So I think some small businesses in the town of Oregon would work. And for right now, that's all I got.
Arlen,
I thought you were gonna say,
I'll be last.
you be last.
I'm taking notes.
Okay, as we all are. The comprehensive plan that's been developed for last 5-6 years. It's something that's been under work for some time. And it's basically continuing the steps that have been in place for 30 years and continuing that, with the exception of taking advantage of the transfer development rights and relooking at the what can be, what else other lots can be created. It needs to be pointed out that we as a town, the town government, cannot create lots. We cannot create a subdivision. We cannot say, hey, we're gonna be having 200 more houses here. It takes a willing seller, takes a willing developer, buyer, or the person who has the property to be doing the development themselves. And right now, we do have the mechanism that says that, and Brian Standing had done research and found that there's over maybe 225, 250 development rights that are out there that are owned by the local farmers or the landholders. And that combined with a possible 50 of the lots that are eligible to be divided, or larger parcels that are eligible to be divided. That's a goodly chunk. I think that gives us an opportunity to be having enough development opportunities within this community that benefits the landholders, benefits the community as a whole, keeps development a little bit in check. Larger, faster development, bigger development should be happening next to the villages. And I think that's going to be the challenge to us. And we have this comprehensive plan that's been worked on for some time, and I think it's time to move it forward. Public hearing stage. And have our citizenry look at it, give input into it, get it approved. It is not something that's fixed for another 10 years. Just as Kate is bringing up the things to be looking at, surveys to be looking at, it can be amended as it has been in the past. So I think it's time to get this moving forward.
You done?
Done.
Tim?
Speaking as a member of the Plan Commission, we would like the guidance of the town board. And it sounds to me like everyone who's spoken so far wants the town board to be guided by what we do. We can accomplish, at least put on the paper, the means of accomplishing whatever goals the town board wants us to try to achieve. We've got a great consultant at the county who has been very helpful in helping us with drafting. But we've got to tell him what idea it is that we want him to address. And once we get things like TDR or non-TDR or whatever it is that we decide the town would like to propose to the citizenry, then we can have a document, put it out there for everybody to see, hold the public hearing, change it before we enact it if necessary. But I would like to know that we have a clear understanding with the town of what end they're trying to achieve. And I would really, at the end, I would really like the people of the town to know what it is that we are attempting to do. May not be perfect, things don't always go perfectly when they're run by humans, but we can, we don't have anybody else to do it. And this is, I'd like to see a plan put together with our best effort and hear what the people have to say and get it in place so that when someone comes before us and said, I want to do this with my land, we can look at the plan and say, oh, you can do that, or you can't do that, or here's how your plan has to be changed. We need to be able to tell the people who come before us what the rules are. And we're hoping we get that kind of firm guidance from the town board.
David?
Well, can't really add too much. I mean, we kind of heard all the different issues and possibilities in front of us from the people that spoke before me. I'll just say like Fred, I was born and raised on our family farm here that dates back to the 50s. Back when I was a kid, there was a lot of dairy farms, a lot of cows, a lot of animals. You drove down the roads. You'd see somebody leave the gate open. I had to stop and help round up cows and heifers. I mean, we don't have those days anymore. So is the new rule in the town of Oregon, the fact that we have less barns, less animals. And I don't know if we have any more open land or not, but the fact that we're, putting houses based on our 1/35 that was approved in 94. If that's our new normal, I guess so be it. I guess I just want to make sure that those of us that have splits on farms can continue to use them for family members with ease, like I have, and other farmers that are left here that still want to do their splits on their land. And as far as the TDR, I think it would be good, and I know Brian Standing's listening, and he's been helpful. I apologize, Brian, I don't have memorized yet what the landing areas are as far as what zones you can and can't do it. I think if we could get a graph going, I think that would be one of the first things that would help for public discussion is what land can a right land on and be built on. I think some people might be surprised, what the rules of TDR actually are, the way we're looking at it now. Yeah, I guess I really don't have much more to say other than, Kate brought up maybe, we just need to understand what is the new rule for the town of Oregon, because it's not a lot of barns and a lot of animals anymore. So I guess that's all I got to say.
Sharon?
My number one concern with our plan as we sit here right now is it needs to be certified again. It has to be reviewed. And we've been working on this review for so long. It's long overdue. I sometimes get the feeling that the way everyone is thinking that we need to just start all over. And I know that's not possible, but to redo the survey and redo the vision statement, those are all good things, and they probably can very easily be done. But I don't think in the time frame that we need to get this approved by the county and the state. I think we need to zero in on this, make some changes to it, get it approved, and then start with the new vision statement if we want a new survey, because this can be amended at any time. But I think we have drug our feet on this for so long. We just need to move forward.
Yeah, just to add to Sharon's point, there are some things in the plan proposed that we don't have in the current plan, such as for solar panels. So if we don't approve that now, and somebody comes with a solar panel presentation, there's no guidelines for it. So there's some things that need to be approved now, and that's in line with what Sharon was saying. Everybody has great ideas, diverse opinions, and as everybody knows, there's no easy answers here. As being a newbie to the board and somewhat newbie to the town, I defer to, opinions of the long timers here on the issues presented and what should be done in the town. And I also think the town, I think Kate brought it up, the town needs to be educated. I had no idea what levy limits meant, why the town was having problems with levy limits. And then I read an article that says the state legislature put a block on the levy limits and you can't raise our taxes more than net new construction, whatever the heck that means. I don't know what that means. So I think, and as Kate put it, do you want $200 tax raises every year so there's not a house next to you, or you rather have a house next to you and save $200? I think that's a decision the town's going to have to make on an educated basis. I don't think the town realizes what the issues are facing the government. I didn't know it until I heard about the levy limits, and the legislature is going to change it. You're going to have a referendum, or you're going to increase your construction. So I agree with Sharon. Let's get this done. We can amend it and add on to it, and inform the town and see which direction they will guide us, because there's no easy answers.
Hey, Gina?
I agree, there's no easy answers. This is a common conflict, right? As a new person to the commission, I think I've learned a lot, as Chuck said too, about just levy limits and what our actual current situation is financially. And you know, I think that an education component would be helpful. I think also that from my own perspective, of my personal education, I would like to hear what the town has to say. And you know, I think people in the town, what kind of community they want to have and what their opinion is on the trade-off of paying higher taxes versus their environment that they live in. So I think public input would be really important, but I agree with a few of you have said, a lot of work has been put into this document. There's a lot of beneficial components of this document that we could really make use of. And so I think moving forward with the idea that this is a living document and we're not going to sit this on the shelf for the next 10 years, but we move forward with the good things that we have and we continue to make progress and maybe a new, you know, whatever it is that we move forward, a new snapshot of what our current situation is, you know, broader understanding of the current situation, and then a lot of public input as to how we're going to handle that.
Jessica, I know you're.
That's the absolute newest person here, but I'm never without an opinion. It seems like there's room for agreement in different camps. I think that I'm very sympathetic to farmers who've worked a very hard job their whole lives and they want to retire. And I think I suspect they also really love the land and have a deep respect for the land and don't want to do, you know, things that are going to jeopardize, you know, just blow it up. So that's my feeling about that sort of situation. And it'd be nice to be able to sort of look at those in a case by case basis with compassion and interest for the person who's coming to us. I also think that probably a vision statement that was written in the 1990s could be it wouldn't cause problems for anybody. Maybe we need to sign off on the current one and start new. That's fine. But I'm just thinking that climate change and the housing shortage, social issue, justice and equity issues might factor in to a vision statement differently from how they may or may not have 30 years ago. So maybe in a sense, maybe not necessarily logistically, but maybe we do want to think about those priorities and goals and let those to some extent guide us as well. I mean, I think I find things that I agree with everything everybody has said, and I have concerns as well. That's why we're talking.
Okay, thanks. I had a couple of comments. One, I mean, I've heard from different board members about development, because we need revenue for the town. Does anybody have that answer on how much revenue one house brings in? Jennifer, do you know what that is?
It's percentage of the Department of Revenue side, so
It's
there's
about-
a number.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
number.
about $3,000 a house.
Yeah.
So if you take one house is gonna generate the town $3,000. A lot of houses can make $150,000 to do 1 mile of a road. That's 50 houses. I'm not so sure our town wants that. So that comes back to me where I believe it needs to be a new vision statement put out there. It needs to be analyzed and we need to get input from the public. To me, I don't think it's going to change much. I know Sharon's talked about this. I don't think the numbers are gonna change much from what they were before. I think things are gonna stay pretty much the same. People are gonna want the rural character. They don't want development. Maybe I'm wrong. We don't know until we do that. But I think if people found out how much it would really cost the town in land to get the revenue, they're gonna think different. I think our only option is either put a referendum out there to get more money, or we borrow like we have been the last few years and add it to the tax levy. To do the answer by building, I don't think that's gonna happen, because number one, it's not gonna happen overnight. Even if we open up development, it's not gonna happen overnight. So to me, that's the only way I think that we can bring in some revenue is to either borrow the money or put it on the referendum to help solve the tax levy. So far as development, I think from what everybody I hear, I think people are willing to do a little development, help the farmers out that need some help. To do that, maybe we need to lower the density. I mean, it's a lot per 35. I don't know if we can do that. Is that something we can do, Brian, or not?
Yes, you can. You can change the density to what you wish. The one caveat I would say is that for areas that you intend to be eligible for farmland preservation tax credits, if you drop it below 1 per 35, those areas would no longer be eligible. You'd have to call them something other than farmland preservation. So, but aside from that, yes, the town can set whatever density standard it sees appropriate.
So that is one way. We could lower density from 35 down to 15 or 20. I know if we lowered it down to 20, we would have one person that's in the audience that would be building shortly. Because they've been to the plan commission many times. They went to the village board. They came here, the town told them to go to the village said yes, and now they're coming back here. If we don't change density, they can't do nothing. So I think that's something as the board should look at is maybe density. That's my feelings and my thoughts. Another way to make it some more lots is, you know, if we open up them RH properties that were brought in before 1994, the people that thought they had a lot then, maybe that should come back. And we look at it. I'm not saying we need to go out and promote them people that have that lot and say, you do have a lot, you can sell it. But those that know about it, if they had a right back then, they should still have the right today. So that might be something that I think the board should look at and think about. The TDR, I totally agree. It's not going to fix it. It sounds like there's a lot of ifs and ands or buts with it in different directions, but it's an option. It might help something, you know, it might bring in 1 or 2, or maybe bring in 10, maybe bring in nothing. I have no idea. But at least we have the option. That's the way I look at that. So that's how I feel on development. I'm not against subdivisions. And I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it. I'm just bringing this forward. I'm not against subdivisions. I am against putting more roads in. I shouldn't say put more roads in, taking care of more roads. If you put a subdivision in, I think we could write an ordinance where, like the gated area in Bergamot, the people that build that house are responsible for that road. So the town does not have that expense in the future of maintaining the roads. The roads just keep going up. The cost goes up every year. You know, I got on the board, you know, we did a mile of road for like $35,000, and now it's 150 for 1 mile. 200,000 a mile. So I mean, when you got 54 miles in your township, that shows how much you can do in a year. When this year, the budget for roads was 0 until we borrowed money. So that's where I stand. I think we do need a vision statement, a survey. But like Sharon said, I think it's gonna happen overnight. I think we need to get something. If we could, as a board, get something together tonight to give the plan commission some direction that they could get done in a short time, and then pass it and then amend it as we need to when we move forward. Is that something that people agree with? That's kind of what I heard.
I just have something to add, and I don't know, Jennifer, if you can help with this. We went to that meeting in the town of Verona a while back. And it was talking about how important this plan is, which everybody here realizes. But this person that gave the talk said it's really important that you get it as you want it, because it's not very easy to amend it.
It's not, I don't know.
It's not easy and it's expensive, isn't that what we?
Can I speak to that, please?
Yeah.
That's not true. Lots of towns amend their plan on a pretty regular basis. Now, I want to emphasize that what your plan commission has been involved with has been a comprehensive revision of the entire comprehensive plan. We looked at it from beginning to end, reorganized it, updated a lot of data. That's part of what took so long. And at the same time, they were also considering some new major policy initiatives, such as transfer of development rights. There's a lot of time necessary for education for that. In order to amend a plan, all you need is a public hearing, a 30-day public notice, and an ordinance amendment. So please don't think that amending the plan in the future is going to cost the town, tens of thousands of dollars. This plan has not cost the town $10,000. But please don't think that amending it is going to be necessarily a 6-year project. It doesn't have to be. And I may also remind you that we had a pandemic in the middle of our plan preparation. So the plan commission couldn't meet for a long period of time. It was very difficult to get public input. It was a very unusual set of circumstances. So, I've seen lots of towns amend their plan, pretty regularly, every couple of years. That's probably a good practice. You can probably plan on, maybe depending on the complication of the amendment, you can probably count on between 9 and 18 months of work to amend a plan. And once you have a document that's in a format that you like, that's easy to understand, making further amendments to it is going to be much, much easier than rewriting the whole plan from top to bottom.
Brian, I have a question. So that ordinance number 82, which was directly related to those RH properties, that was an amendment to our comp plan, and it sort of got held up at the county. Is that kind of fixed from now on, that wouldn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one of the things that has changed, I mean, to be perfectly frank, is that, when a couple things. One, our county board is very different than it was, a number of years ago. Secondly, the towns have a trump card now. They can opt out, right? So they can opt out of county zoning, they can opt out of county planning. County board is very aware of that, and has an interest and incentive to try and keep towns happy. So I haven't seen the county board deny a proposed plan amendment from a town since the one that you're referencing. So I don't think that's an issue. If you propose something really dramatic, you still got the county board, have to get the county board to go along with it. But unless you're proposing to pave the whole township and build, high rise, or big box retail everywhere, I don't think you're going to have a problem with the county board.
Thank you. So, with Brian saying that, I guess my thoughts are if we as a board can steer you guys with a little bit of direction and maybe get done what you can get done, and then we go back and have to amend it afterwards, after we get the survey stuff done. I agree. Sharon said we need to get moving and get it done. It's been dragged on too long. What are people's thoughts of what I've said? I guess I'd like comments from. Okay, Arlene, you had your hand up.
Wait, I don't know if I go around the circle again or just. I can.
Yeah, I can, yeah. So I was pretty much done. What I brought up was, change the density. Maybe get back to them RH properties. I talked about the subdivisions and how we maintain them. The TDR, I think that's a plus. And that's pretty much summarized what everybody else kind of has said. We know all that is, how do you look at that? So we can go around like we did before, but I'll start with the plan commission this time.
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said. I think it's really interesting that it's like a $3,000 per house. And when I wonder what we mean when we talk about development, because I'm concerned about urban sprawl. I'm originally from the East Coast and I've seen a lot of urban sprawl in Connecticut. It's not good. And that's kind of what I worry about the most. I mean, Bergamot is kind of has a malignancy about it that's just seems to be spreading, and anyway, it's rather tightly knit, so it's not super sprawling. But anyway, does it matter if it's a big house or a little house? Is it 3,000? Are there certain kinds of development from the town's point of view that are more lucrative than other kinds? Those are questions I have, but the general 3K a house is pretty interesting, and certainly don't want to make your money that way if that's the case, which I don't doubt that it is. I like the idea for farmers of changing the density in some parts, like in farmlands. I wouldn't want to do that as a blanket thing, but I think I'd be open to that possibility. I would want to, yeah. And I like the idea of revisiting the legacy rights question. I think that would make a lot of sense and help a lot of people. I don't disagree with anything you said about the TDR. I think and I don't disagree at all about your concerns about new roads. And that's.
I would actually like to ask a question of the board. I understand that, or I guess that I'm feeling like you're looking at the plan commission and maybe changes that we can make to development as maybe the best prospect for increasing revenue. Is that true, or is the town considering other revenue sources, or are we really looking at increasing development or development as the best means to sort of fix our finances?
Well, it's either development, borrow money, which when we borrow money, we just add it back on the tax levy, right, Jennifer?
I'm sorry, excuse me.
We borrow money, we can add that totally back on the levy, correct? And charge the taxpayer, correct?
What our payment is,
Right.
what our payment is. So you're borrowing money, you're gonna add, like, just like if you had a car payment, what that was at the end of the year, what you made in payments.
So I would say in the last 4 years, our payments have been what, maybe 150,000 a year if we took it across the line, I'm guessing.
A year, yeah, between 150, I think we're at 200 this year, but that's because we borrowed for the capital equipment for fire and EMS.
So that's about what we borrow. And the other way would be to have a referendum
Referendum, yep, to raise the levy,
to raise the levy.
similar to what the school district did recently.
Now, when you do that, do you do that by a percentage or do you do that by so much a year? I mean, like you do it like the school did, 14 million a year?
However,
That's what we'd have to do is set a figure?
whatever you'd want to
Okay.
do, however you'd want to do it, yeah.
So that kind of answers your question. That's the only way the town can raise any money.
But there is something with the raising of the money. If the levy limits were removed, if we were not borrowing, the cost to our citizens would be pretty much the same. If we had no levy limit, but we did not have to borrow, citizens would be paying the same amounts, except for the interest.
No, that's not true.
What is true?
Well, yes, if we didn't borrow, it would be less. It wouldn't be the same, it'd be less, correct? If we didn't borrow money, the tax levy would be less, correct?
Road work.
But if we didn't borrow any money, our tax levy would be less, correct?
Sure, yes,
Right.
absolutely, yeah.
Yes,
It's like if you didn't
Right.
make a car payment, you
Right.
have more money in your pocket.
right, yeah.
Because of interest.
No,
because
either
of
way, if you make a
principal.
payment, if you're making a payment, you add that on your levy.
Right.
So
But
if
you
you
have
don't make any
principal and
payment, you
interest.
can't add that onto your levy, so then your taxes, your levy ain't gonna go up any.
So we would get less
So
money.
so I'm kind of, your question kind of threw me for a loop.
we don't have the option to say that levy limits don't exist. We don't have the option to say levy limits don't exist. That's dictated to us by the
Exist.
state. Yeah.
And we don't know what the legislation is gonna do in the future. Who knows? How long has it been the way it is right now?
It was started in 2005, and then the only net new construction was in 2011.
The only what?
Net new construction, I think, was 2011, but I'm getting, yeah. So levy limits have been in place since 2005, but then zero growth except what you have in net new construction. And our net new construction, I just looked, is 1.66. So you said 3,000. It's really a percentage based on what your equalized value of your town is, divided by how much the value of that net new construction is, kind of determines your percentage, which ours was 1.66. And that's because they had a year that they didn't include our net new construction, and that was because of our assessing firm that we had. So it was a little bit long. We generally have, and if you would, I think that Brian Standing put in our plan, we're at, I think, 0.06, 0.6, something like that, net new construction.
But if the legislation changed that process, so it was by new construction, things might change for the better, or it could go for the worse, correct?
What's that?
If the legislation changed things, now it's by new construction.
Sure.
But if they change that, it could either be better or it could be worse.
And legislation has come through to change it.
But you said it's been this way since 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The potential for it to get changed is not very likely
No, it's not.
without there being a change in probably leadership.
Okay.
But the zero increase on the levy. A little newer, isn't it?
Yeah, 2011.
Newer than that?
Yeah, probably 2011. I think 2011 is our torque thing, so that's why I have it stuck. But yeah, it could potentially change. There is legislation, there is people working on getting that changed. And it affects specifically townships like us, because we do not have, and we do not want that growth. But it then pushes people like the Village of Oregon to look at our land, because. So it's kind of,
I mean, I will make this statement, and I was gonna make it earlier and I forgot. Annexation with the village. It wasn't so bad before. But if you look now, what they're gonna annex is nice farmland. When they did Bergamot, that was pretty rough terrain. Now, if they start going out off in Netherwood, that's nice farmland. They go down south over here, that's nice farmland. We can't stop that. We can't develop it. But unfortunately, that's what the village is gonna take next. Is gonna be our better farmland. So Gina, that was just a statement I wanted to say. Gina, are you done? Or you got more questions?
Oh, curious what other people have to say.
I agree with a lot of what you said, Wayne. It's a situation now where we need to get this done. Housing isn't going to be the answer, the whole answer to this, right? So the longer we go and don't have a plan, it's not going to make a difference. I think we just need to get this done. And if there are some suggestions and differences, even from the public hearing, that we could implement into this plan, it would be a benefit rather than waiting another 6 months to a year. I totally agree with that. And, there's specific situations too of some individuals who came before the board. I think you're mentioning one with the Village of Oregon. They had 14 acres and and their land is going to be annexed by the Village of Oregon. And I felt terrible that they couldn't build another house on that when they just wanted to build a house for them and their family. There's certain exceptions maybe we could make, but that opens a whole nother Pandora's box. But I just think we need to get going on this, get this done and get some input from the village and then get it done and then go from there and add on to it as we go. I think that's the best path we can take at this point.
Sure.
I don't really feel that whatever we do with our plan is going to affect our financial situation, unfortunately. But I feel very strongly that something has to be done to affect our financial situation. Because I don't think there's a lot of people who are going to be able to afford the increases in their taxes that were felt this year. I can't speak for anyone here, but when your taxes increase $900 to $1,000 a year, how many years before retired people who are looking to retire are going to be able to afford to live in our town? Fortunately, I think I may be able to stay a while, but we still have to do something to either control our spending or generate the revenue so that we can live here. And I'm not sure that the comprehensive plan is going to solve the problem. So I think we have to move forward with that, get it taken care of, and then work on maybe other ways to generate some income, change some things in our township. I don't know. I certainly do not have the answer. But as a plan commission member, I feel it's my responsibility to work with this, get it done so we can move forward.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, and to dovetail on what Sharon says, I think if we did send out a survey or make a new vision statement, whatever, I think we need to broaden it. And I don't know, it's not easy to explain this stuff that we're all here tonight because we think we enjoy this, but I mean, the outside grabs at our township money, if you look at fire and EMS, and I'm not saying you gotta have that, but I don't know if everybody's aware at the amount of money that gets spent on fire and EMS, our senior center. I think we give a little to the library, right?
Well, no,
No, not the library.
we have donated a couple of years ago or a few years
Okay.
ago, we donated some, but
The fire and EMS and senior center, they're our biggest outside draws in our. Other ones.
that's the biggest one, isn't it, Jennifer, for outside?
So I think it would be beneficial to educate town residents a little bit if we do a survey. Why are we concerned about money? Well, we got a lot of outside bills that maybe people aren't aware of. As far as, and I echo what Sharon says and others have said, changing our comp plan is not going to fix our financial issues. But getting our comp plan done here will help us move forward for those who do want to do something on the construction side in our township. Brian, Stan, a quick question for you. Because we've talked about a lot of different things, where our plan sits right now, if we include TDR, is that I'm trying to remember, is that the only new vehicle that's going to possibly increase construction? Because we're not changing density as of right now that we've been talking about. And I thought we were not doing the legacy. I can't remember where we were on that issue. I guess my point is, if we move forward with our plan the way it is right now, and if we include TDR, that's the only thing that would generate or have the ability to add more houses than what we've had for the last 7 years, whatever our plan started. Is that correct?
Well, that's the only thing that would significantly change the development potential of the town. You still have 1 per 35, and as someone quoted before, there's quite a number of building sites still available under 1 per 35 through most of the town. But you are correct that transfer of development rights would be the only new policy that would significantly increase development potential. The other factor that's in there too, and this is unchanged, would be the lots that are in traditional subdivision that are more than 4 acres in size. And they could also redevelop. And that's true under your current plan as well.
So
Does that answer your question?
my point is, if we keep going down the road we are, we have public comment, and we can explain, where we are today. Maybe, we get this one, I'm just thinking here, Wayne, one possibility is move forward, get this plan done. And maybe at the same time or right after it's done, if we want to work on a vision statement or something to get more resident input. And then I guess at that point, I don't know if it's so much resident input on construction, and I guess our last vision statement was just a big general thing. I guess if we do a big general thing again, I just want to make sure we get all of the township in there, not just, do you like rural character, yes or no? Educate on, the money that has to go out so people understand why we're asking these questions and where we're trying to get to a more, financial middle of the road type thing. I guess that's my thought.
I will make one comment, so everybody knows, you brought up fire and EMS, that's not gonna go down. That's gonna continue to go up. And it's not gonna go up slow. I mean, they're talking a new building, equipment, and
Ladder truck.
Mother truck.
the calls are just unreal every day. Sometimes there's 9 calls a day, 7 to 9 calls a day. And it's with more people in the village, it's not gonna go down. So our expenses with the fire department, like David brought forward, and EMS is gonna go up. Because when you make that phone call, when you need them, you want them. So we're gonna have to pay them premiums when it comes, so. That's a good point to bring up, David. Tim?
I need more money. Money. Everything's gonna go up. I am still waiting to hear the idea of how we're gonna get that money. If there is such a thing, we'll put it in the plan. But I haven't heard the idea yet. What we need is a plan. And money is something that everybody in the town is gonna have to wrestle with. Every month when they get their social security check, when we get our social security check. Or milk, whatever it is that you're depending on, everybody's got to wrestle with it. So I think what I'm hearing is the plan doesn't have too much to do with that. We can create some opportunities, but nothing new in terms of stimulus that's going to create a lot of money. That's a separate problem. And the town has to be educated and prepared to handle that. They want to live in the town. And we do want to live in the town. It's just going to cost us a lot more.
Thank you. Arlen?
Well, a good chunk of this, or the purpose of this meeting was to be talking about some of the financial issues that are facing us and how that affects development. In a big chunk of the crisis of the levy limit crisis that we have was a stroke of the pen from the legislature and previous governor. And there's a lot of lobbying out there to have another stroke of the pen that could be giving us some help or maybe hurt us some more. And so workaround has been done by borrowing, which has its own stigma and problems. So yes, I agree that we need to get this moving forward as far as a comp plan. And that we also need to be, as a board, fighting the good fight, should be finding the ways to cut the cost and raise the money that's in here and not be messing with everybody's taxes, but the taxes, unfortunately, the old death and taxes statement is still with us. So let's get this comprehensive plan going and get it to public hearing as soon as possible. And that's going to be encouraging some development that's already there, which has a lot of lots. I do not think we should be opening things up, make it too loosey-goosey, but get this to and have too many lots, because once we have turned this into a real suburb, We can't go back. And every house that we add, it adds cost. It's cost to whatever snow plowing, road clearing, road maintenance. That comes with that. So get the comprehensive plan going. No, there's no magic bullet. We're gonna solve the financial problem from the comp plan.
Well, I've been on the board since 2013, and I think we've done a pretty good job of our spending. We haven't overspent. We haven't been frugal on things that we bought for this township. We had plow trucks that needed to be replaced. We had to replace them or else we weren't gonna get our roads plowed. So we've been, I think, pretty frugal on what we spent our money on with their budget, because our budget is tight. And we are squeaking every dime out of it. And if we had a widget to sell, by golly, we'd be baking billions of them to sell. The other thing, the RH, I'm going back to the old farm. They had them, and then they got taken away. They shouldn't have been taken away. They were allotted those lots. They had those lots. Snap of a finger, they were gone. So those people should get those lots back. And you say we got 230 splits left in this town. Farmers aren't going to sell their splits unless they have to sell their splits. So whether it's one per, most farms on average for 100 acres, you had 4 kids, 1 per 35. Your kids, you got to draw straws on which kid's going to put a house on their lot and which ones don't. So I think that is a problem. Now, if somebody comes into town today and buys 200 acres, they shouldn't be allowed. But if it's somebody that's been here and they've had that stuff in their family, then I think they should be able to get some help in developing. Because the farmers ain't selling their lots. We got 230 splits. They ain't just going out the door. TDR is not going to change that. They got the development right. They've already got the right to sell it. Why are they going to sell it to somebody else to develop? They're not going to sell that unless they absolutely need that dime. It goes back to the old adage, I'm here, but you can't. I've been here. We don't want anybody else. So I bought a house, built a house, but you can't build a house. I think that's, I can be here, but you can't. That's just my thoughts. I'm done.
Wow, the problem got bigger and bigger as it went around. I like to hear the discussion because I remember Brian Duffin giving me the lecture and what happened to the farmers one night, and it doesn't seem right. I mean, it seems like we want to preserve farmland preservation, but then when they started to do that, that's when you guys got screwed, right?
Mhm.
You know, and maybe that's something that really needs to be looked at. You know, and there's some people, Jennifer and I were talking about this farmer that says, my kids are never going to want any of this. Now what am I supposed to do? And he wants to come and hear more about TDR. So we have kind of a lot of confusion out there. And I think a lot of people don't even know what the question is anymore. And as it went around, I'm sort of thinking that way too. And I could be wrong, but I know, you know, I agree with what Sharon said, that people are going to be outpriced. So how much more can taxes go up? And how much more money do we want to borrow? I mean, it's not like we're able to keep it in the same steady amount. With the fire department, it's getting more and more and more. And roads. So I mean, obviously, it's not the planning commission's job to solve this problem, but I think it's helpful to have some ideas of possibilities in that plan. You know, I hate to say the dirty word subdivision, because I don't even know how I feel about that. But I mean, does that have to be an impossibility? I mean, I live in Raven Oaks. We're all really happy there with our little less than an acre. Really happy there. You know, people that lived in Madison come out there and think, my God, this is like being in the country. So is there some place that would work? I don't know. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. Is this a possibility of a solution? And like Wayne talked about the roads, I mean, do we have to say no, never? And I hate that idea. I've got mine, now you can't have yours. And I think it would be really worthwhile to help out the farmers in our plan and not have it continue the way it is after everything that I heard today.
Thank you. Carl?
Well, at the end of the list here, there's a lot to talk about. It was much easier when I was the first one. But here's the so when we started the second round, I thought, oh, there are 2 tracks. We're talking about 2 different tracks of action. And then some way middle of the discussion, I was like, oh, there are really 3 tracks. And now I really think there are 4. So the first one is for the comp plan, the existing draft of the comp plan. I don't see that there's anything to hold that up. You know, we're not going to be able to fit in anything else. We shouldn't have to fit in anything else. And Brian Standing had said it's not that difficult to amend, you know, so track number 1, I think the comp plan needs to go forward. Track number 2 is we're talking about trying to give some direction to the plan commission, but I don't even think we have our questions. We for sure do not have the answers to be able to say, oh, go this direction. I'm not even sure we have all the questions set. So there's some amount of research there to say, okay, any of the financial numbers that we've been throwing around, you know, what's a percentage per home, what's the average assessed value, what's the real benefit to the tax revenue, all those types of things, and costs of roads and maintenance of roads and all of that. There's some questions out there, and I don't think we have the numbers. The third thing, we're talking about vision and surveys, which are really kind of the same thing, I guess. One leads to the other. That's more longer term, right? And I don't think that needs to wait on anything other than we didn't really budget for it. But that shouldn't wait, because the value to that is going to help either those of us on the board or future boards or whatever, depending on how long it takes. So there's something to that is missing and needs to be updated. Then the fourth track that I think is to develop a lot of education components, and multiple people have mentioned this, a lot of education components about this, not just really not just about levy limits or taxes on your home or anything like that, but really about anything that the town is doing. And then to have the communication methods to present that to people and to get feedback, because that is just something that we are not great at all, as witnessed by the Torque project. So I think we're really on 4 things. And I think if we approach them as separate paths, it's going to be easier to do than to try to hold up any one particular path to wait for the others. Well, that's it for me.
Okay, thanks. So back to the agenda. Just discussing possible action, board recommendation regarding future development. So what is the board's feeling? I mean, the plan commission wants a direction to go. And I want to leave here tonight with giving them a direction to go. Are we gonna, is everybody in favor of just leaving things alone and pass the plan commission, amend it later, or pass the packet we have now and amend it? They're still gonna come back to us and ask, what is our direction? Because we're not giving them any direction.
I don't think we can tonight, Wayne. I don't think we can at all. I think we need to do some research first.
Wait this 1.5 years or 2 years until you get the surveys and get them done. Is that what your plan is?
It could be that long. It really could be that long. I mean, I'm not sure how long it took in 1998, 99, 2000, but it took not a small number of months. Tim, do you remember?
It was 1.5 years.
Okay. But there's still things, Wayne, that I think some level of research, like even to get some basic numbers about, you know, what does a home of this value contribute to the tax base? What does, you know, this range, what are the options for that? What are options for other light development? You know, there are questions that can be asked outside of and before a more formal vision process. Yeah, but I don't think we have all those answers compiled in one place where we can say, hey, Plan Commission, can you look into these particular options?
Thanks for the question, Lee.
Go ahead.
Carl, so I'm just curious with where our comprehensive plan sits right now, where we kind of reviewed it with Brian.
Mhm.
And the plan itself is not going to bring in buckets of money. It's just
Right.
more a tool to help us guide the development of township.
Right.
Like where we said we're at right now with possibly adding TDR, maybe looking at these RH1 lots, which would add a little bit. Are you comfortable with just that change in the plan going forward? Get that done and on the books, satisfy the county, and we could work on a better one of those or other things then?
That's what I meant by when I was talking about different paths. That for first path, let's do the draft that you have now. Let's keep it going. So yes, as is, I would keep going down that path, finish up the public hearing and the public notice and move it on. That's me, you know, so that's me speaking. I don't see a reason to hold it up. These other things it's not dependent on these other things because the timing will never match up.
Arlen?
I have to agree with Carl. I think it's time to move it forward. And this is, we have good topics that people have brought up that are of concern to them. Let's flesh them out and then start seeing, including the survey. And getting more definite as to what the costs and benefits are to these different approaches. That's not just going to happen tonight. And then if it has an effect on changing the comprehensive plan, then let's amend it.
So let me get this straight. You do have part of a TDR policy in place, correct?
No, we do not.
Didn't we get an example form from town of Rutland or something? And
We
then
do.
when we
have-
look-
we do
Can I
have-
finish speaking?
We
Can
have.
I finish? Didn't we get something from the town of Rutland? And didn't Brian Standing look at it? And wasn't there some corrections to that and you people were in favor of that?
Yeah, we have a TDR in place. Like I said, I think taking what we have now and educating or getting that information out there so people understand what it is. A couple of people I've talked to in the town, they say, oh, TDR, so I can just go buy a right from a farmer and pay him X dollars and I can build a house because I know 2 acres next to me, or I know somebody that's got 2 acres. Well, that's partially true. It depends what that 2 acres is, what it's zoned. You may not be able to
Right.
put a thing on there. So
Right.
we've been discussing something. We have something that we think we want to go forward with. We just have to fine tune it. And I think educate people. People may say, well, that's kind of limiting. Well, that's what it is. That's what we've been discussing. And I guess we'd have to talk to Brian a little bit more to say, hey, if we want to loosen this up more, what's the impact of that? Do we not get enough farmland preservation acres in? Then do we not have our farmland preservation credits anymore for the farmers? I mean, so there's pros and cons of what you do there, but we have something that we've been discussing, and I think it would be good to get it out there. Maybe the majority of the people say, well, this isn't worth it.
Right. But where I'm going is, you've been working on a TDR thing for 4 years.
It's been talked about. Yeah, I can't, every meeting, it hasn't been hammered on.
From what I'm hearing, where we're going right now on tonight, the plan you got, you can present, we're done. To me, I'd rather see you've done some work on this TDR. Is that something you guys get together and finish it up, at least throw that in there?
I would say, yes.
I would
You
say,
know,
yeah.
I would think you're far enough to get that in,
Yes.
Yeah, it's,
and that's where I'm going.
you need,
Otherwise, you're just gonna say, okay, we're gonna keep the same comprehensive plan we got, we're not changing nothing. You've done all that work on TDR. Can you fine tune it some and get it in there and have that at public hearing?
I think we need to finish the revisions we've worked on, because we've talked about revisions and stuff that we have worked on for the past
4 years.
15 years.
Right.
Do that, incorporate our TDR that we have discussed.
Mhm.
Maybe it has to be fine tuned a little bit, and put that in there and then get it ready for public hearing.
I mean, I hate to see all the time and education that you guys put into this. And then now 2 years down the road, you start looking at it again, you're gonna forget what you already discussed.
Right.
You've got it in your mind, you've got it fresh, you got it there. I should say it's fresh, but it's there.
It's
If you-
coming and it's going.
If it's something that you guys could get wrapped up, I think it'd be nice to get that at least in this new plan.
Right.
We already have.
It's in there.
Okay.
It's in the draft.
I was gonna say there, I'm looking at the October 18th draft and it's got transfer of development rights in it. So is there something above and beyond that that's being discussed for additions or changes?
No,
No.
Oh, okay, so it's there.
it's there.
Okay, so it just needs to continue the process.
I just have a question about what is the relationship between, say, let's just say we approved the comprehensive plan right now. What is the relationship between that and any changes you want to make to the density, housing density quota or the,
Can I speak to that?
farmers of-
What would happen is if you adopted the plan, the package that you have now before you, and you wanted to change density standards in a portion of the town or in all of the town, you could do that through a second amendment to the comprehensive plan, another amendment. And as I mentioned, that does not necessarily have to be a, multi-year process. That could be something that could be done relatively easily.
relatively, would it be easier to say, fold that into this plan or to put this plan to bed and deal with that as a separate amendment?
My recommendation would be to finish this project and then tackle any additional changes as another amendment. And part of the reason for that is one of the biggest improvements, I think, and one of the things we worked really hard on in developing this plan was trying to reorganize it and write it in such a way that it would be much more easily understood by anyone seeking to develop or seeking to do any of the activities covered by the plan. I think working with the Plan Commission, the document that you have before you is a much better document. It's much easier to use. I think, and Stephanie and Jennifer can, and I think your Plan Commission can attest to some of the difficulty they've had working with the current plan in terms of finding where things are, explaining things to landowners about what's expected of them. This current plan is showing its age. And I think by getting a good, solid document to work from, I think it's going to make future amendments much easier to discuss and to implement.
Thank you. So with that, you guys you got to have another meeting on that to finalize that, you think?
Oh, I think we definitely do.
We can have our next meeting and everybody review the draft we already have before that meeting and vote on it if somebody makes the appropriate motion.
Like I say, Wayne, basically you guys on the board are saying, you guys get heads down and kind of wrap this up. That's what we need to hear, that's what you want us to do.
And everybody, I think, on the board is in favor of the TDR from what I've heard tonight. So it's like you guys have that direction.
One quick suggestion I might make, and I included some things in the presentation materials that I sent to you earlier today, or I sent to Jennifer earlier today, Jennifer and Stephanie. Just thinking about timing. So if the Plan Commission wraps up its work on the comprehensive plan, the next step would be to schedule a public hearing, and you need to allow time to publish a Class 1 notice. And I can go back and find out exactly what that is. And then you would need another 30 days to send out a community notice. We can help do that and make sure that that happens. And then you should have the public hearing, and you can notice that public hearing for both hearing and possible action if you like. Ultimately, the town board will have to adopt the comprehensive plan. and then forward it to the county for the county adoption process. So just make sure one of the things that you're going to want to do if you want to move this forward is pick that public hearing date. Make sure you have that class 1 notice time. And I think Jennifer probably knows the procedures for that. And then add that 30-day window in there to get the community notice in. So it should be at the end of that community notice. You need at least 30 days for that community notice to go out. Then the public hearing 30 days after that community notice goes out.
Thank you. So item 4, discuss possible action of commercial development. Is that done? That's all done. That's in your packet and that's ready to be adapted.
It's in there.
And am I correct? Is that on a
Case by case by case.
It's case by case, yes.
In other words, if I may put it in these words, Wayne. The draft that we have followed the previous chairman's wish that we do not pre-designate where commercial development can take place. Commercial development potentially is possible anywhere in the township. Subject, as we said, case by case application, sell it forward on whether it's a good idea or not. Not everybody's in agreement with that. We didn't vote on it. I myself think if I were going to move into the town, I'd like to know where the potential development is. Is it along Highway D? Is it along Highway A? Is it on this road? I'd like to have some guidances before I buy my house to know, oh, there's not going to be a commercial development here. But the way that the draft is written now is that it's anytime, anywhere upon application, but it does lack what considerations, what factors go into making the decision on whether it's something that we would approve, a development that we would approve. So the idea of commercial development anytime, any place is exactly. It lacks any specificity as to how to go about deciding if it's appropriate.
And is that okay with the board, Arlen?
I would rather have some more designation, but right now, the principle of having the small mop-off shop could be almost anywhere in the town is fine. And that's where the case by case basis comes in. What is the impact? And that's what may drive it, yes or no.
Fred?
Yep, I'm for it.
Kate?
I'm for it too.
Carl?
Yeah, can I just have one thing clarified? That's no different than the current, that whatever's in the draft is no different than what's in the current plan, correct? For commercial?
It's a little confusing, and this is because the current plan map has what are described as nodes, which shows basically little red dots in the middle of intersections of a very indistinct, sort of like perfectly round shape. And the implication is that there might be some commercial development at those nodes, but the current plan doesn't specify if that means any of the properties near there or some of them or what. So it's been very hard to use so far. So what this plan does is it takes those nodes off the map and just says, you can do some kinds of commercial development, but you have to meet certain standards, and it can occur anywhere in the town.
Okay, so it's similarly vague.
Yes, it can occur anywhere in the town except not in farmland preservation areas. So in the other planning areas, there is potential for some commercial development.
Okay.
Okay, so is there any questions from the Plan Commission directly to the board?
You can put that in there. You guys hammer it out and decide if that's specific enough for our town's needs.
Oh, for the
commercial.
So is everybody good with what Arlen?
Tim?
Said?
Yes.
Yes, yes, Carl?
Yes.
Yep, we're good there. Another direction that. Board like this.
blood sugar. Ketoacidosis is a serious side effect that leads to death.
So I would, and I bring that up because let's just hypothetically say we get the kind of plan in and we want to start looking at the next things. I guess, I don't know if you want to call them 2 cans of worms or 2 cans of opportunity. If we're going to look at density changes, and I'd like to get the board view on, your comment on any new roads should be private. And what that kind of entails or what you see that as. We don't need that right now.
Right.
But
Right.
in upcoming discussions, if we're gonna think about amending the plan or do some other things, it would be good to get this kind of input from the board early on. See where you guys are sitting at and what you're thinking about some of these other issues that we'll have to deal with later.
Yep. Anybody, anything else? Oh, it's getting long.
Wayne, just on the RH zone. That we're gonna wait on that, correct? The RH zone properties and just.
Should have an action on the, future development.
I have no problem acting on it.
I just wanted to know so that when they go
I mean,
in there, it's not there right now.
Right,
Yeah.
it was taken
And
out.
yeah, and I heard some board members say they wanted to, and it would make them probably go back and take some more time to look at that.
Yeah.
Whether that's what they want to take now or they want to do that after. Because I know that hasn't really been decided.
I mean, I have no problem acting on it tonight. Give the plan commission direction, but I kind of got the feeling that was part of the regarding the future development, so that's why I kind of
Okay,
didn't push it any farther.
yeah, and I just want to clarify.
Yes.
If you don't want to vote on it tonight and you want to think about it and discuss it more, what we can do as a plan commission is work with Brian Standing and come up with alternative A or alternative B. This has got, this deals with the RH properties in this manner. Alternative B deals with the RH in a different manner. And you gotta pick between the two, at least you'll be able to pick between 2 choices. But I think we can come up with something that will make, focus your discussion on what it is you're approving.
But is that something you want to get done because you're gonna adopt a new plan, or you want to do that afterwards?
As Brian, what is the what would the result?
Sorry, was that directed to me? Yeah, I mean, I think we've already done that mostly. I mean, it'd basically be 2 different maps. One map which would show what we're calling the legacy parcels in the traditional subdivision category, which would allow them to develop up to 1 unit per 2 acres. Or leaving them in either rural mixed use or farmland preservation, depending where they are in the town. So I think you'd basically just be looking at 2 different versions of the map with all of the policies for those areas remaining the same. And I think we've done that already in Plan Commission. I think we presented 2 of those options to the Plan Commission. So it would simply be a matter of putting them together on 2 separate maps and labeling them basically option A or option B. So it wouldn't take long.
That's what I would like to see then.
Okay. I can work on that.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else, everybody?
I'd just like to agree that this would, to me, this has been a very useful meeting to hear you guys talk and exchange ideas. I agree with David that it's been beneficial to our commission. Appreciate it.
Anybody got anything else?
I would just like to add that working on boundary agreement, although we've taken a pause, but it's something that Ken and Arlen and I like had a meeting, and we would continue to try to work towards the boundary agreement, which help address some of the villages annexation issues as much as we can try to do that, although that would not get done prior to this plan being passed. It is something we are working on. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have one addition. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what you guys are, what the recommendation is from the town board, and that's basically to move forward with what the draft is now. And then we talked about the RH doing like an A, B, right? Okay.
Yep.
You guys all had,
And,
I thought it was like,
and,
but I didn't know.
and I get a little bit of tweaking on the, TDR, I guess.
Right.
So. Sounds good.
Sounds real good.
Thank you.
Do we want to shoot for a date that, or do we want to wait for like a month or two, or we should start to shoot towards that date?
Well, they have to meet.
But they give us at least 1 month to get back on.
You're gonna be in there in February.
Yeah, because we have we put on here a timeline. We were trying to look through a timeline. And, you know, Brian Standing, is there anything in terms of timeline that, you know, we would want your guidance to be there at a public hearing? Any dates that we should stay away from for you?
For me personally, no, I don't have anything coming up in the near term.
Again, February.
Our next plan commission meeting is Tuesday, February 21.
No. Date of our election.
Oh. No.
Oh,
The 21st is your election day?
Yeah.
The primary.
we can't have a meeting.
We already moved that one.
Is it 26th?
21st or
21st can't do, the week before you can't do, so it would have to be the week after, just like the last one.
so February 28th would be our next commission meeting?
So.
I think we didn't know we were having that
No, we
primary.
didn't, right?
Yeah,
But,
so
The rest of your plan commission is okay with the 28th of February?
28th, yeah.
I see two shaking heads.
Jessica, are you okay with the 28th being our meeting?
Yeah, 6:30.
6:30?
Yes.
David and Sharon? We got a meeting then?
We got a meeting, yeah. Looks like we're gonna.
Arlen?
I'm gonna go pick Arlen up.
Okay. Item 6. Call for a motion at 8:06.
So move.
Got a motion from Fred to adjourn. A second. We go home.
Oh, it's a joint meeting? I'll second that.
Second from. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, going to say aye.
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 At the same time, motion carried. Meeting adjourned.
Good night, everybody.
Night, Brian. Night, Brian.
It's clear, because there was a lot of that.
Okay, that.